No, 2 weeks ago, never could have pictured this episode, but here we are.
Our 2-week timeline of recording shows was a great idea at the outset of things back in February, and we thought it would be a perfect way to encapsulate what is going on in between, halfway through a month, end of the month, and all that good jazz. And the way the schedule worked out this year, it looked like it'll line up really well for us with some off days for the Phillies and during the minor league season. And then, lo and behold, I think we have ultimately somehow really pissed off the baseball gods, because we managed for our last episode to decry the idea that Felix Reyes certainly would not be in the big leagues anytime soon. He gets called up within the next 48 hours, and then about 24 hours to us recording our episode for this week, Rob Thompson gets fired, and we're not just doing players here on Down the Farm anymore. We're doing coaches. Anthony Contreras is promoted to the big leagues as well. This episode of Down the Farm, she is Charlotte Barnes. I am Sam Jelinek, and Charlotte, we got to time this better.
God, I know. Yeah. Like 2 weeks ago, the sky was mostly still intact, and the sky has fallen, and things are, I hope for Phillies fans' sake, things are at the lowest they can be right now. But yeah, it has been an insane 2 weeks. Immediately after our last episode, Felix Reyes got called up, and I already had people chiming in on Twitter about that. And I'm sorry, guys, I can't predict the future. I could not have predicted that. We were going off the Otto Kemp timeline. I mean, Otto Kemp was playing just as well last year, and they didn't call him up until June. So there's that. But yeah, Felix Reyes is here, and so is Anthony Contreras, who brought out the lineup card last night. He's in the bigs now, which is exciting. Take Adamson promoted. There's so much happening, and I'm not even talking about the Major League Club right now, really. Like, there's so much happening.
It's really nuts. And thinking, like you said, along the lines of just, I think the best place to kind of start on this timeline is looking back at Felix Reyes getting called up, because you could argue that that was really the first indication of, okay, you can call it desperate, you can call it looking for answers, whatever you want to call it, but the Phillies were willing to try some out-of-the-box things. In last year with Otto Kemp, that was calling him up in June. This timeline for Felix, obviously the track record much shorter, both in terms of long-term production, and then just this year, they go ahead and pull that trigger. Which is what, led both you and I to think certainly it was going to be a little bit longer. A huge congrats to Felix. It's been awesome watching it. Unfortunately, the results following the homer off of Chris Sale have kind of fallen more in line with, I think, what we had anticipated might happen in this kind of shuffle. But I think it just goes to show the Phillies at this juncture, even where they were 2 weeks ago, were starting to grasp for straws. And now 2 days ago, kind of the lid blew off. Rob Thompson gets fired, and now our IronPigs manager, Anthony Contreras, is up in the majors as well, joining Felix Reyes as third base coach. And I think that's probably the best way we can describe the way the past 2 weeks have gone. Not only the lackluster play on the field, but it has reached desperate times, and desperate times call for desperate measures.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, replacing your right-handed platoon in left field is not exactly an earth-shattering move, but that was the first step the Phillies took. Obviously, the next two were Taijuan Walker and Rob Thompson, so things escalated from there. But yeah, I mean, Reyes has gone about what you can expect. I mean, obviously, his numbers aren't qualified right now, but you can get a little glimpse of his Savant page and how it might end up shaping up, and it's just about what you'd expect. The chase rate is not good, but you know what did shock me? 87th percentile sprint speed. I was watching him run. Yeah, isn't that crazy? I was watching him run the other day, and I'm like, he's not running that fast. Yeah, and I saw that, and I was like, are we measuring this correctly? So if that's true, like, I'm impressed by that. But yeah, I mean, he's only played in 5 games so far. In his second career game, he was hitting cleanup, which is pretty indicative of what is going on with the Phillies right now. I think my eyes popped out of my head looking at that lineup, because I think that was the day Schwarber hit leadoff too, I believe. I don't know. I was I was in Chicago. They were searching for anything during that trip. The Phillies have not had a lot of answers, and maybe the play will start to turn around here. Who knows? But right now, just replacing Otto Kemp in left field has not been the solution, which is not shocking because he's not playing all the time. But yeah, 0 for 10 against lefty starters right now. Putting Felix Reyes in that lineup is not going to fix that giant problem.
Yeah, no, I mean, when it started off with a bang against Chris Sale, that homer, we were all so excited, but it was also like, okay, this can't, like, this is starting off at the peak of the mountain. We're only kind of be going down from here, and that's sadly kind of what happens. Reyes hasn't been fully exposed defensively yet. And I think this goes along with the same lines of the kind of desperate measures here, that they put Schwarber in left. They moved things around, put Harper at DH, put Felix at first to try to spark the lineup and, just do something there. Really goes to show that they were just pressing every button that they can to see if the right combination shakes out. And ultimately, Rob Thompson, I think most people, the players, Rob himself, Dave, the entire media, everybody surrounding this, has done a really good job painting Rob's firing in the accurate light, which is that inherently there's not exactly something that Rob Thompson did that was wrong that necessitated him being fired. But it was more a victim of circumstance that, something had to change. Rob had tried changing everything from the lineup card to pitching usage, and as far as the roster was concerned, there wasn't that much else that was going to get changed because just the roster is stuck, and that's what they were left with. So the front office was left with the question of, okay, do we pull and hit the final big red button we have here, which is, eject on Rob Thompson? And ultimately, that's what they've chosen here, I think far sooner than anybody anticipated. With this being a podcast that focuses a lot on prospects in the minor leagues, and this is something a lot of people have talked about, is that this does become a bit of an indictment on where things are at in the Phillies minor league system, which is, we talked about that coming into the year, which is that it was very top heavy, and part of that top heaviness is currently hurt, which means that you can't pull from that, which means that the available options that you have to alter the roster are even shorter than you could have even anticipated coming into the year. Because we talked about it before this, if Aiden Miller's healthy right now, there's no doubt in my mind he's in the majors. Because that's one of their few best options that they have left to alter something in the lineup, and they can't go to that right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with that assessment. I mean, Dave was asked yesterday sort of about the bigger picture of things. And when he was asked specifically sort of about the system, he said, well, I've had trade conversations this year earlier than I have. Like, people are still interested in our system. And I mean, I'd be curious to know exactly who he's talking about, just because it just feels like there is this total lack of depth. And I mean, maybe he's talking about guys in low A or high A who could be useful in the future, who are just not useful to the Phillies right now. But yeah, it is desperate times, desperate measures, but the Phillies are sort of running out of desperate measures they can try. I mean, obviously, however they respond to Rob getting fired, this is going to define the entire season. I mean, right now it can feel really hard to picture them. They're obviously, they could still make the playoffs. That is like very possible, but after watching them lose 10 straight games, I think everyone's feeling a little uncertain about all of that. So yeah, and with desperate times, desperate measures, I'm not saying they're going to call up Dante Nori anytime soon, but we were saying before this, it seems a lot more likely that Dante Nori could be called up again, not anytime soon, unless he is, and then quote me on that.
We got to put the caveat on now.
Yeah, just if he is called up soon, just quote me on that. But no, he's been playing super well in Double A, and there's like so little to pull from, and you could argue he's now, especially after that WBC, he's become a part of that top heaviness. But yeah, so I think next couple months, depending on how things go, I would not be shocked, especially if he's in AAA and is playing really well, ends up getting promoted to the major leagues.
Yeah, and before we dive just a little bit more into where things currently stand with some of the top prospects, because like you said, all of a sudden it seems far more likely that the Phillies are just going to be willing to, I hate saying rush guys, but be a bit more aggressive in moving those guys up. I do want to touch on Anthony Contreras, our manager here at the Pigs, becoming the Phillies third base coach. Personally, having worked with AC since the 2023 season, he's the only manager I've known here with the Pigs. It's been a blast working with him. It's been amazing watching him and his interaction with players and how he works with his staff and the guys here, especially how he handles guys who were on that carousel going up and down from CBP back to Coca-Cola Park. And we all kind of thought that AC was destined at one point or another to get a major league job. It does kind of stink if this ends up being the way that it happens. But frankly, all of us here in Allentown are super excited for him. Obviously, you've talked with him over the past season plus, seeing the way that he handled Andrew Painter and Justin Crawford. And for me, it's been more impressive seeing the way he has really created deep connections with some of the, what I hate calling them this, but the quad A guys who were stuck in between the Weston Wilsons, the Donovan Waltons, Garrett Stubbs for his time here. Really create meaningful relationships. And I think that him getting to the big leagues, it's not going to alter the chemistry of that clubhouse in any way, shape, or form. But I do think that for some of the guys who do know him, Crawford and Stubbs and Painter in that clubhouse, it is going to be a nice added boost.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, yesterday was an overwhelming day on many fronts, but it was nice to see Contreras come out of the dugout and it's like, oh, that's one familiar face here. I'm excited to see what he does. He had a great debut in which he got to wave many guys through. So Phillies actually won last night. So that was exciting.
I got to be honest, I felt so bad the first inning when Turner tries to go first to third and gets thrown out at third. I couldn't see whether or not AC sent him or if Turner, that was of his own volition. And ultimately, everybody falls down into a scrum that nearly tabletops him at the end of it. I was like, man, that's one hell of a way to start.
I know. I was like tough scenes. Yeah, I did not get a full view of that play because I was writing during a lot of the beginning of the game. But I was like, oh, not great to start. But it got better from there.
Yeah, and just to toot our own horn of the Pigs now, that's 3 members of the Phillies coaching staff that are former IronPigs. AC, Dusty Wathan, and Cesar Ramos, the bullpen coach. So we send pigs to the bigs in all shapes and sizes here from AAA. So that's just been really cool. And now our manager, Tank Adamson, everybody calls him Tank. He's Chris Adamson. Tank is Australian for anybody who doesn't know. Please keep an eye on our social medias over the next coming weeks because we are splicing up parts of his mic'd up from last year. And Tank, he's just a treasure. He is just absolutely insane, nutty, lovable human who I liken to calling him kind of like your favorite teacher because he's like so much fun and will keep you loose and, do great things. But also when it comes time to really teach guys or have tough conversations, he's able to sit you down and do that. So it's going to be fun having him here. And we all secretly had hoped whenever AC would move on, that Tank would take over. So it's pretty cool on that front. I know you talked with Tank last year for the story you did on Crawford's defense. And it's he's a hoot.
Yeah, he is so funny. And I guess fun fact about him is that with the whole Australian thing, he likes surfing. I learned that. We were talking about surfing.
The other day.
Yeah, that is like secret hobby of several people. Not anymore, but like Otto used to surf. Otto's wife was almost a professional surfer, so Otto used to surf a lot. And when I talked to Tank, I was like, "You've got to talk to Otto about this." And I think they've talked about it before. But yeah, it's secret hobbies. But to be clear, Otto does not surf anymore because contracts, etc.
Contractually, he does not surf.
Yes, yeah.
Tank is not holding back. He's very happy.
Yeah, no, he can do whatever he wants.
But Tank's very cool with that. He was the hitting coach for Team Australia in the 23 and the 2026 WBC. He's very tuned in with basically everybody. The Australian baseball community is pretty small. Everybody knows each other. So he's like known Travis Bazzana since he was like 10 years old. So he's like tight with him. He knew Curtis Meade coming through the system. And basically any Australian who the Phillies end up signing, Tank probably knows them. So that's a cool thing here. Looking at now that this new era of Phillies baseball has started, and we know that they will be a bit more aggressive in what they're trying to do. We saw that over the past couple of weeks, obviously with the Felix Reyes move, but the other part of that was actually bullpen moves. We saw a lot of guys come up and down from the minors, and I didn't total up the numbers completely, but honestly, the guys in the back end of the 40-man roster did a pretty solid job, all in all.
Yeah, I mean, that has not been the problem. Like, I mean, the bullpen has not been great, but they were not the problem. Chase Sugar has definitely been decent. Yeah. And McFarland did not pitch, but he was up. And yeah, I don't know.
Johnson, a couple of scoreless outings. Alan Rodhell turned in 3 scoreless against the Cubs last Wednesday.
Yes. Yeah, he looked great against the Cubs.
Yeah, Rodhell made his return to the Pigs rotation Tuesday night. Didn't look that sharp, honestly. Again, I tend to not be concerned with that, especially with the guys who are stuck in that in-between of going up and down. That for them, all of a sudden, working at AAA becomes just staying in shape. And the results kind of start where they are. Seth Johnson's velo is held, and it's been good for them.
Yeah, if Seth Johnson can throw strikes, like, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Ron Hell, like, he is one of the more interesting things right now, because it's if the Phillies rotation has an injury, Ron Hell is the guy. Like, that's basically what they said. And why, I mean, there are obviously several reasons why they chose to release Taijuan Walker, but they said they feel comfortable having Ron Hell come and start some games. I mean, he looked pretty sharp in Chicago. I mean, you can argue there's not much behind him. It's like it's Gene Cabrera. Would the Phillies feel comfortable with him coming up and being their 5th starter? I don't think so.
Gene did finally turn in a solid outing again this past Sunday. Those 5 innings, gave up 2 runs on a homer. His problem so far this year, and this is, I don't think, something that they will be able to fix in season, but it's just that his pitch mix isn't diverse enough. The sinker and the changeup really blend together a good deal, especially late in outings when his velo drops a little bit. The changeup's a firm one. It'll be mid-80s to high 80s. So when the sinker starts dropping in velo, it basically becomes the same pitch. The sweeper, he still has trouble locating it. And then outside of that, he doesn't really have another off-speed pitch. So he's kind of left as a 2-pitch guy. Is that why everybody ultimately thinks he'll end up in the bullpen? Probably. But the Phillies are at a juncture right now. Like you said, if Ron Hell goes up, Cabrera's probably the next man up as far as, I mean, he is the only other starting pitcher on the 40-man roster. So, yeah, that's it. If Ron Hell, or if they end up needing somebody other than Ron Hell, it's going to get dicey. And I would expect one of the non-40-man guys to probably bear that brunt first rather than Cabrera make his major league debut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You can obviously never predict when injuries will strike, but if the Phillies are looking to like make some minor league trades, adding some minor league starter with some big league experience or a swingman type guy would not be the worst idea in the world. I don't know. Because I feel like Alan Ron Hell is one of their like only, you could argue he's one of the only swingman types like on the 40 right now. And Ty, again, many reasons why they cut Taijuan. He could have been a swingman, probably would not have been that effective. You can definitely argue Ron Hell is better than that. But yeah, you can, like, it feels like the Phillies might want more of that, especially as you get later in the season, the risk of injury runs higher.
Yeah. And one of the things that you brought up, who didn't end up pitching, but I think it should, and granted, it could have just been circumstance, but the Phillies calling on Alex Pharm to fill the final spot on the roster for the gap, I call it the gap day, in between when Wheeler was activated and they had released Taijuan, so they had an open spot on the roster. They obviously didn't end up using him, but they feel comfortable enough that, okay, we can bring him up, and I guess if they really needed to use him, they could have. His early results have been fantastic. We've talked about it a lot so far this year. McFarland, 7 1/3, 11 strikeouts, walks still high at 5, but he just doesn't give up enough loud contact to make it matter after that. I know we've both been talking that should the Phillies feel like they needed an infusion of kind of a high-octane arm late in the season, he's probably that guy. Now it becomes more all hands on deck the rest of the way to just make sure that every game becomes a must-win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I mean, I think he will be up soon enough. I just think that I feel like that was sort of, again, desperate times, desperate measures. I feel like they probably would be happy to have him a little more seasoned in AA and called him up for that time. But I'll be curious to see how things unfold, because obviously there will be more injuries, but Boland's back. Pop is not that far off. Duran is not that far off. So a lot of these guys are going to be returned to Lehigh Valley, but surely, obviously not wishing injury upon anyone, these injuries are going to happen, and there are going to be more AAA guys up. And I don't know. So another like Lehigh guy I've thought a lot about is Max Lazar, who obviously is not.
Now.
Yeah, 60 to IL now, which is more like a housekeeping thing. He's progressing, but he like definitely would have been in the major league bullpen if given the opportunity with all these injuries. But yeah, he's working his way back from injury right now. But I wouldn't be too surprised in like a month from now if he's back in Lehigh and is going to be that next option for the Phillies.
Yeah, and I like you kind of mentioned with injuries. I, in the same vein, start thinking about some of the guys that the Phillies have brought into the bullpen over the offseason that they have gotten good results from, but given the nature of things currently with them basically trying to win out the rest of the season at this juncture, guys like Tim Meza and Zach Pop, should they go through a spell of 2 to 3 weeks or maybe even less of ineffectiveness, the Phillies might be now quicker to say, hey, we need to get a more effective arm here. And I don't really like talking about that because that's, people's jobs on the line, but that is something to consider that, the Phillies have shown a sense of urgency now. This is, we need results and we need them quick and we don't have time to wait around. And that means churning through a lot of guys. I think that that's something that gets forgotten back during the 2022 season. The Phillies went through a lot of bodies. There is a lot of stars on our Pigs to the Bigs wall outside of the press box of names that you would never even remember. They brought up to the big leagues, tried to fill a hole for a day, a week, 2 weeks, and then moved on until they found the combination that worked. And obviously this roster doesn't have as much flexibility as the 2022 version did, but they've got the same level of desperation now.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I totally agree with Pop and Meza. I feel like I feel like Meza gets a little bit more leash being a lefty. To be a lefty reliever. But he's had some tough outings, but he started off the season really well. But yeah, I agree. Should either of them go through kind of a difficult time, it would not be totally unsurprising to see the Phillies pulling guys from AAA and to try to build that right combination, or pulling guys from AA in Alex McFarland's case. So yeah, I don't know. Again, desperate times, desperate measures.
One of those desperate measures we had talked about, Dante Nori. I think it's good to peek in kind of where things stand with Reading right now, just because once the summer wears on, those are the guys that either A, the Phillies will be moving in the hopes of acquiring something at the trade deadline, or rush them to the big leagues a little bit and see if that can spark something. Nori's been good. His outfield throwing progression, he's not playing defense yet, but it's soon, right?
Yeah, as I looked at his MILB page before this, I was like, shoot, I should have asked Rob about the, and I'm not trying to overwhelm Don Mattingly at this time, because I don't know how much he knows about I'm sure he knows a lot, but he's got a lot on his plate this week. So I'm like, we'll hold off on asking about Dante Nori for a few days. But yeah, I don't know much more than what Rob said probably like a week and a half ago at this point, that he was going to do the progression. They expected him to play defense soon after.
Yeah. And Nori right now, he's posting an 817 OPS, looks solid. A strange thing, I know we talked about this actually the last time, he's 7 for 12 stealing bases, which not great.
Not great.
No, we don't really know what goes into that. One guy who's not a prospect, but I got to shout him out because he's been posting insane numbers to start the year. He was once a prospect. He no longer is anymore. It's Alex Vanellis. Now, almost nobody knows who that is. He was a third-round pick once upon a time by the Brewers, got traded to the Red Sox in Jackie Bradley Jr. trade, ended up getting released. Phillies signed him last year. He's a left-handed upper minors bat who just gone nuclear to begin the year. And I just love it when that happens because you just never know when a guy figures something out. And 8 homers in 18 games while running a walk-to-strikeout ratio of nearly 1-to-1 is, okay, you got my attention a little bit. So I like stuff like that. But the real prospects, Arun Escobar is actually off to a pretty slow start. He's a guy, I think, as well, in addition to Dante Nori, the same camp of if he goes on an extended heater, maybe the Phillies start getting, the itch to say, could it be worse?
Yeah. I mean, that wasn't even on my radar, but I agree with you because the infield has not been great at the major league level. And again, any lever they can pull.
And I mean, with the AA hitters playing at Reading, it's hard to parse through the numbers sometimes. So I, don't look too hard at the OPS or the raw numbers, but I do look a lot at strikeout to walk ratios, because that just tells you if they're commanding the zone. Escobar, although he's only hitting 224, he's walked 12 times, he's only punched out 15. So that tells me, okay, he's commanding the zone the way you need him to, and hopefully something can come from that. On the flip side, this is actually a good example of it. Redden Heredia signed as an international free agent a while back. The Phillies steadily progressing to the minors. He's always put up good numbers. He's hitting 307. He has walked twice and struck out 28 times. So it's like, it's fun. Those are the guys you roll the dice with and say, okay, maybe he can keep it going, maybe he can't. But that's a good peek at trying to understand, whether or not you think somebody can take what they're doing at the lower levels and pulling it up to the upper minors. Then you have somebody like Felix Reyes who does that and just keeps on going.
Yeah.
On the pitching side of things, there's not much else down at AA Reading that we're really constantly tracking at this point. They do have some minor league free agent pickups from this past offseason who do not have major league service time yet, but they do have enough time in the upper levels of the minors that should something happen, like we were talking about for the starting pitching depth, could become of interest. Adam Seminaris is one of them. He's a soft tossing lefty. Again, I'm not sure if he's just able to pick apart younger hitters or if it could work at the major league level. Chuck King, everybody remembers him from spring training because his middle name is spelled Fuggit. It's pronounced Fugit.
Fugit King.
Yeah, Chuck Fugit King. He made a soft start for the Pigs last week. He'll start again this week. The stuff's actually pretty good. Mid-90s sinker, splitter that looks more like a forkball with a ton of drop on it. It's interesting. And he's a wacky, zany, very not normal dude who just has a great vibe about him. I need him to get to the majors just for, I'd love to see the show. Would be cool. But yeah, he's been interesting with that. So, we keep our eye on just in case, because the Phillies have made just in case a much more plausible reality than not.
Yeah. It just feels crazy how we went from last year. I feel like when I first got here, it's like, yeah, there's so much time, to develop these guys, which has been the case over the past few years. And the Phillies are not necessarily rushing anybody, but a very different approach this year. I can already feel it.
Yeah. Down at High A, Jersey Shore, I feel so bad for them. They had their 2-week road trip was hell enough in that they had to go all the way down to Rome, Georgia, and then up to Bowling Green, Kentucky. I need a word with Rob Manfred when he said we're realigning the minors to make travel easier. That's a load of malarkey. That is, what are we doing here? But they lost 5 of 6 in Bowling Green, which I'm just like, man, that's just. Why are we in the same league? What are we doing here?
It's so dumb. Yeah, it's like Lehigh going to Minnesota, and then they're ferrying so many guys to CBP, as you and I talked about. It's just it's not good.
Inside the minors type of thing on that, if anybody remembers that last part of that series in St. Paul when we were playing the Saints, that was when Felix got called up, and it was also Seth Johnson got recalled. It was that Saturday morning, and because of the nature of where we were in the week and where we were in the country, we just played 2 guys short the rest of the series. They just said, sorry, we're not going to be able to get somebody there in time. That's just the nature of it. And that's why some people, you might tune into a minor league game or see a highlight and see a position player pitching in a tie game in the 9th. It's because you just run out of dudes. You can't ferry guys across the country long enough. I was talking to our clubhouse manager who handles all the travel. He's like, yeah, luckily there's actually a direct flight between St. Paul and Philly twice a day. Who knew?
It's insane. Yeah, I mean, like, I asked Felix, I was like, what was your travel day like? And he seemed very chill about it. And I was like, I just cannot believe, I don't know, because I remember Duran obviously made that flight from Minneapolis to Philly, and he was like, I couldn't sleep last night. And he was like, oh, which obviously makes sense. It was a huge trade. But yeah, not a huge travel day for Felix.
Yeah.
But I want to take us back to Rome, Georgia. Did you see the video of all the, the sheep in the outfield? It's Jersey Shore. I want to say it was Ryan Dombrowski pitching. Yes. And they pan to the outfield, and there are all these sheep running around. It made the rounds. It hit awful announcing. Like, it was the Philly Jersey Shore made it big.
Yeah, down on the farm, baby. The farm.
Yeah, down on the farm is legit.
Yeah, so Jersey Shore's been going through it, whether or not they're having to pile a bunch of sheep dung or otherwise. Trombowski's actually been pretty good start of the year. He's one of the older guys down there, but he's 0-2 with a 3.72 ERA. Reese Dutton has not allowed a run yet in 18 innings of work. 15 strikeouts, 4 walks, only given up 6 hits. Early season numbers, you take them with a grain of salt. You see what can happen with them as well. But Jersey Shore, for the most part, it's interesting. They are a very pitching-heavy team. As a team, Jersey Shore is hitting 229. Their opponents are hitting 194.
This is insane.
That's crazy.
What is happening in high A?
They've only given up 82 runs in 21 games. Yeah, I think I saw them post a stat that going into last week, their starting pitching staff had the lowest ERA in minors, which huge shout out to them and what they've been able to do. The starting staff: Trombowski, Luke Gabrish, Mason Graves, Ryan Deggs, Sam Highfield, and Reese Dutton. Michael Mercado's also been rehabbing with them, so they get that little boost. But yeah, it's like we said before, Jersey Shore isn't stock full of name brands prospect talent, but every once in a while you need one of those guys to jump. And that's how you build depth throughout the minors. And then finally, Single Lake Clearwater, I think that's the team that's been grabbing everybody's attention the most. Gage Wood does that once a week. He proved he was human, gave up a couple of runs, but otherwise, I saw a highlight of just one of his fastballs. The vertical break he gets on that thing is nuts.
Yeah, it's insane.
It just stays flat. It's unbelievable. But he's been so good to start the year. 25 strikeouts in 15 and 2/3 innings.
Yeah. He's been really, really good. And I mean, like, I almost feel like he needed that sort of human start to keep everyone from being like, he's going to be in Philly. He's not. This is your, like, this is your every episode reminder. He will not be in Philly this season. Like, I feel confident saying that. He will not be in Philly this season. He needs to work on second. Fastball's amazing.
If we say it's not going to happen, it's going to come true. So just keep on talking. I hate to put I don't want to call him a person because it's more of an account on blast, but the sleeper accounts?
Oh, yeah.
They were, in the midst of the losing streak after Gage Wood had another scoreless start. They're like, Gage Wood should be in the majors tomorrow. And it was like, what are we doing? I don't like commenting on the social status of social media and what it says about us as people ever since that's been monetized. But that's an indictment of the human race.
It's so bad. Like, I feel bad even entertaining that because it's just like, no, that's not going to happen. But also, like, and I know I've said this before, it's just like his fastball looks fantastic, and that is one of the best things he has going for him. I'm sure it'll work well in the majors. But the thing is, like, he's pitching to a lot of guys who are probably not going to end up making it to the majors and not making it much further past their current level. I think it's really once he gets to Double-A, you start figuring out what kind of pitcher he is. I mean, you look at Andrew Painter, he was overpowering everyone, and last year he had to figure it all out. I mean, the fastball was amazing, and then all of a sudden he had to figure out how to use the secondaries because he was playing guys who were like actually game planning in AAA, and guys at the lower levels in the minors don't typically do that. So again, I'm not saying like Gage Wood is not going to be as good as anyone thinks or anything, but it's just he needs more time. Just because he's overpowering low A hitters, we should not be like, yeah, let's move him up tomorrow.
Yeah, and we'll bang the drum on this again, which is also the fact that Wood threw like 40 innings last year. So he is on a slow progression this year. I think a timeline of getting him to the big leagues by the end of next year and that's a completely linear progression where there are no hiccups, no speed bumps, no drop in performance. It would be he's in the big leagues towards the end of next year, Yeah. So we can pump the brakes on the idea that he'll somehow be in the bullpen by the end of this year. Mm-hmm. But he's been great. Huge shout out to the guy that I have just been beginning of the season and then into the season after spring training. I got to shout out Mitch Rupert, who brought him to my attention first on Twitter. Alirio Fairbanks, Florida State League Player of the Week. He's now hitting .304, OPSing .910, 3 homers, 19 RBIs. Good walk to strikeout numbers. He's a catcher. Will he be traded? I don't know. I don't care. It's fun for now. But he's been a guy early season down the FSL to make some pretty big strides, who I think, when Phillies start internally, this is what the best teams do, is that they take good stock of, okay, what do we have in the cupboard to trade from? The Phillies have obviously shown that they are far more comfortable trading the guys AA and below than anything close to Major League ready, and Fairbanks has started to form into one of those guys pretty quickly.
Yeah. But I mean, you could argue with his likely progression, he could be a catcher and waiting for JT. But again, that's several years from now. So the Phillies probably are not that worried about it, and more so worried about how they can get better at the trade deadline or before then. Like, as Dave said, they've had these conversations early. So yeah, I'd agree. I mean, they've showed they're not hesitant to trade those type of guys. I mean, you look at Taid is probably like a similar one. I mean, this is also why they don't have much catching depth in the minors right now, because everyone wants a prospective catcher. But yeah, we'll see. But he's looked really good so far.
And only because you brought him up, and we haven't had a chance to really talk about them, only because in a wild world, they ended up not being the problem. The 2 rookies on the Phillies, Andrew Painter and Justin Crawford. I think everybody, was really zeroed in on how they would do this year, and Painter ended up becoming a bit of a story over the weekend. The series in Atlanta, not really his own fault, more that he was left in the game by Rob Thompson to face Michael Harris, and ultimately that, who knows whether or not that was actually the final nail in the coffin. A lot of people pointed it as such, but it didn't help. That so far, Painter's progression has actually been really nice. Crawford has hit his first slump, but to stick on Andy for a second, I've been really, I hate saying surprised, but in a really positive way, he's been able to take the lumps and just roll with it.
Yeah, I feel like he's been one of the more impressive parts of the team this season. And what happened on Sunday, you can definitely argue was not totally his fault. They should have had a lefty ready. But I was not watching the game, but I pulled up game day at the beginning of that inning, and I'm like, oh my God, he's like on the verge of the best outing of his career. And obviously things spiraled from there, but he looked phenomenal. I mean, he's been really good so far. And I feel like you saw it last year. It got out of control pretty quickly. And if it gets out of control now, it takes a while. It takes several innings for that to happen. Ultimately, he doesn't seem that rattled by it. It's pretty impressive.
And on top of that, it's just his luck that a lot of his starts so far this year have ultimately ended up being some of the more important ones. I don't think the Phillies tried to plan it out that way, but his starts have come in pretty crucial moments. The one Sunday night, first that was against Atlanta at CVP, the really rainy night, and then the one against Atlanta this past weekend.
Yeah.
Where
he's on national TV.
Yeah, he's on the big stage of playing on the Sunday Night Baseball, but it's also the Phillies really need a win today. They need a good start. In both times, it hasn't been perfect by any means, but he's given them a chance to win. Which, that's asking a lot of a rookie to go in and do that. And he's turned in outings that are generally good enough to leave his team in a spot that you say, okay, could we have really asked for more?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's been really good so far. And I feel like Rob was doing the right thing and trying to give him some space to grow. Unfortunately, it kind of just got to where the Phillies record was just untenable by the point. I understand what happened on Sunday, but I don't think just after you break a 10-game losing streak was probably not the best time to let him grow. Um, yeah, and I mean with Justin, yeah, he's hit his first slump, and I'm curious to see how he responds to it. I was talking to him yesterday, but specifically about Don Mattingly, who he's pretty close with, and said he gets a lot of advice from. So literally the first time I saw Don as manager, he was walking out of the dugout and he was chatting with Justin and clearly talking about something. So he's obviously pretty close to the new manager. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how he responds to it because, as we've said before, he's not faced prolonged adversity at any part of the minors. But I feel like he just has such a steady head on his shoulders. Like I feel like he has the right ideas and the right people behind him to where he can come out of this.
Yeah, no, it's the father-son dynamic, obviously, of Don and Preston, and then also the Don managed Carl. It's also just like, that's got to be wild.
I know, it's crazy.
Like, has Don accidentally called him Carl at any point?
That would be funny. Like I stopped Justin yesterday and I forgot. I knew that he'd known Don for a long time. He's like, yeah, I've known Don since I was really young. And I was like, oh, like I totally remember that now. And yeah, so Carl would have played for him in 2013. So Justin would have been 10, 9?
10. Yeah.
9. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely nuts. One last thing that we'll touch on, and even though we have I guess the update is that there is no update. Basically, on all the guys, prospects who are currently injured, Phillies have been pretty mum. The update, I think it was a week ago now, that Aiden Miller was going to start swinging later in the week, and ultimately we never heard whether or not he has actually started swinging a bat.
I think he has not. I think he hasn't, but I feel like they said he was like doing some ground, like he was basically doing everything except for swinging.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things where it's like, if Rob were still here, I'd ask about it today, but I'm going to give Mattingly a chance to, I'm going to let the more important questions be asked before we get into the minor league stuff. But I mean, everyone sort of like people outside the Phillies as well feel that Aiden is progressing favorably and responding to what they've wanted from him. So it seems like it's going well. Obviously unideal because it would be great if you were playing in the majors right now, but I don't know, maybe late in the year. We'll see. Yeah.
And then Gabriel Jonas Jr., I know that there hasn't really been an update on that. He was supposed to be getting into game action by the end of this month down in Florida. That's pretty loose term game action. If that's live BPs, if that's actual scrimmages, whatever. He's closer, but we again not received bigger fish to fry currently. So we haven't really heard too much on that end. And that's essentially, like we talked about before, that's what the Phillies are waiting on right now. That's the depth that is currently eluding them for some of the changes that maybe they would make, maybe they wouldn't. But it's left them scrambling a bit more, or I guess not scrambling because can't do anything. Yeah. It's
not great.
Crazy. So that I think covers everything that has happened in the past 2 weeks, which is a lot. Looking ahead the next couple of weeks, obviously, I think we'll continue to try to monitor the injury status of a couple of top prospects with Aiden Miller and Gabriel Jonas, and see, I think now that the new era with Don Mattingly has started and all that entails, whether or not that aggressiveness trickles down the rest of the system, I think will be the story for the next couple of weeks. Is there anything from you coming in the next couple of weeks that we should be aware of? I got to be curious what that first road trip of the team is going to be like.
I know. I don't think we're going, though. Yeah, we had not planned to go to Miami. So
wow.
Yeah, I'm running Broad Street this weekend, so I can't go. But yeah.
Oh, so you running it?
Yeah.
Oh, good for you. Make me feel bad.
So I'm excited. I have a friend visiting, so therefore I really cannot skip Broad Street. So yeah, I'll be running Broad Street this weekend. I'm curious to see how it goes in Miami. I think a lot of people are going to be there. I think a lot of people had already planned to go on this trip, so there will be plenty of reports outside of the Athletic. But yeah, it's kind of funny. The first trip is back in Miami. So yeah, we'll see. My only hope for the next week is less news. I'm begging for less news, please.
We can only hope. But that'll do it for this episode down the farm, Charlotte. thank you for your time, and everybody else, thank you for bearing with us for what has been, quite frankly, more than we could have imagined for the past 2 weeks. Who knows what will happen in 2 weeks from now? We got that to look forward to.
Scary thought.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.